What's up, everyone? It's your boy, Technically Leonard. Hope everyone is having a great day, a great evening, a great night, whatever it is, wherever you are. In this video, I wanted to delve back into my story as a visually impaired person. Particularly, I wanted to get into my educational experience, misfortune, whatever you want to call it. You'll see why I'm saying that when I get into it. My educational experience with the public education system was not good overall. Um, I'm just going to say that, in elementary school, things were good. Things were pretty good in elementary. It was pretty smooth for the most part. Parents, please, if and when a school ever mentions an IEP, that is what we call it in the United States, which stands for Individualized Education Plan for your child, please question every detail of it. Basically, an IEP consists of a customized education plan for your child. This can be good. However, this can include less than desirable things for your child, such as taking your child out of the instructional time your child needs for basic academic purposes and putting your child into a specialized class, whether it be, for visually impaired students to learn Braille, whether it be for students with a speech problem to go to speech therapy, whatever. Basically, it is individualized instruction for your child, focused on your child. That's good when it is done properly and in proper context. However, what was done in my case was that oftentimes I would literally be put into the Braille class that my school had, the very small Braille class. Our Braille class in elementary school was literally in a converted utility room. The room where the electrical panels and stuff like that are. We were literally in a windowless utility room that was converted into a somewhat classroom. Definitely nothing fancy, definitely nothing pleasant, but it was a small room with a single door, no windows, often very cold because they kept it cold in the school for some reason. I don't know. I guess the teachers liked it that way. But it was often very cold in that little room, and it was a very unpleasant experience. And instead of being put into said class for one class period or so per day, oftentimes I would literally spend, half or more of the day sitting closed up in said classroom, sometimes the only student, because we only had keep in mind, at the most we had four visually impaired students at my school. Some of them were actually transported from other schools to my school because the Braille teacher at my school was kind of the only one in the district. So, but literally at times I was the only student. So I know there's no question that they put me in said classroom to give the teacher someone to teach. This also often consisted of keeping me from going to recess. A lot of times I didn't have recess. I would spend it in that little stuffy Braille classroom with said teacher, who was not nice, by the way. He was not a good Braille teacher either. He was very set in his ways. He had an attitude problem. Everything was always the problem of everyone else. He took his problems out on everyone else. Not even the other teachers liked him, by the way. But anyway, I survived that. Like I said, elementary school wasn't too bad. other than being stuck in said room too often for too long. But then came middle school, and the you know what hit the fan when I got to middle school. Um, Essentially, what happened, they would transport me and one other student from our middle school over to the elementary school where the Braille teacher still was for said Braille class once a day. Oftentimes, it was one of the janitors at our school that would take us over there. And this would sometimes mean I was over there, for one class period, sometimes for two, sometimes for three. Sometimes, if the janitors were busy, we would literally have to wait an entire class period just waiting for our van to get back to pick us up. So, we're literally missing half or three quarters of the school day because of this. Well, this was in sixth grade and a little bit into seventh grade. Then came the worst in seventh grade. They decided my teachers didn't really want to deal with me, so they would often just meet me at the classroom door of our regular classroom, homeroom, in the mornings and send me to ISS. That's right, folks. I got put in ISS for simply being visually impaired. I had done nothing. I had broken no rule. I had done nothing wrong. I would just be sent to ISS, where I was given zero accommodations, zero, and I would be set in a little ISS cubicle with nothing to do. They wouldn't give me any work. They wouldn't give me any of my classwork or anything to do. Then, after this went on for quite a period of time, actually, basically, most of my seventh grade and part of my eighth grade year, the first eighth grade year, I'll get into that in a minute. But I was literally set in there, with nothing to do, in a little plywood cubicle, wooden cubicle, with a little desk. The little cubicle was barely wider than the desk, so there was just enough room to get by the chair. To get in there, your chair was facing the front of the cubicle, which was just a sheet of wood. And you had a list of rules for ISS taped to said wooden cubicle. That was it. And this made for some very long, very unpleasant days. As I said, basically I ended up being in eighth grade, doing 2 years in eighth grade, because I missed so much instructional time that I failed. They pushed me through the seventh grade. I don't know. I'm glad they did, but eighth wasn't any better. They ended up holding me back in eighth grade because I missed too much instructional time, because they put me in ISS. So we actually had a coach that felt sorry for me. By this time I was kind of getting into, just to let off some stress in my own personal time, I was getting into weightlifting. So my coach, nice guy, he was probably one of the nicest employees other than one of the secretaries in the office. He's probably one of the nicest employees at the school. My coach felt sorry for me, and he kind of got up some weights and a barbell, and he would let me go into the gym, go up on stage by myself, secluded, isolated, the way they wanted me to be, away from the other students, because I was in ISS for being visually impaired. But he would let me go up on stage and just kind of lift weights, do curls, whatever I wanted to do in this little space, little corner. Pretty much had the whole space by myself. So, I mean, it was better than sitting in an ISS cubicle, but all jokes aside, I was getting no instructional time. I missed out on so much instruction, so much education, because of this foolishness. And sadly, when I tried to tell my mom, because, well, I basically had a mom and a stepdad who could give a crap, but so I would tell my mom what was going on. She didn't believe me. She thought I just didn't want to go to school. She would tell me, get over it, you're sorry, you're lazy, and all this kind of stuff, and send me to school. So, anyway, this went on for 2 years in 8th grade, almost 2 years, 2 academic years, until I had missed so much education time, so much academic time, that it turns out the rules were that if you were in ISS for a set number of days straight in a row, you were suspended from school. Well, I was suspended from school, starting in the latter part of the second 8th grade year, because I was visually impaired, because they didn't want to accommodate me at all. They didn't do anything at the middle school to accommodate me. So, anyway, I was suspended for several days, and once you are in ISS or suspended for so many days, you are considered a truant student, despite the fact I was not staying out on my own free will. So then they filed charges against my mom and me for me being a truant student, because they wouldn't let me go to class and learn or try. So we ended up going to court. Long story short, at the end of my 8th grade year, I told the judge about the situation. Oh, let me get back to that. The ISS coordinator, basically the person who was in charge of overseeing the ISS room, he was a butthead. And he basically would constantly make all kinds of remarks about me, despite the fact I had no choice but to be in his room. Goodness knows I'd have rather been anywhere else. But he made all kinds of disparaging remarks about me. I was called a worthless piece of human flesh. I was called lazy, sorry, you name it. So anyway, we ended up going to court because they filed charges against me and my mom. They were wanting to have me removed from the home and put into a foster home because of their mess. And luckily, the judge who was over the case, who ruled on the case, luckily, when I got my chance to go up and testify, we stayed in court for several hours that morning. When I got my chance to go up and, give my side of the situation, the judge was very nice. He was a very respectful gentleman. So thankful he was the judge we got, because it could have gone so wrong. I could have been put into a foster home. I could have been put into juvie. So many things could have gone wrong. But luckily the judge heard my side of the story. He asked me questions. He gave me a chance to talk. He listened to what I had to say. And when I told him about the remarks that I had heard the ISS coordinator making, calling me a worthless piece of human flesh, etc., he then turned to the ISS coordinator, who was sitting at the plaintiff's table, and asked him. And this guy, the ISS coordinator, under oath, told him, yes, he did say these things. So the judge got a very unpleasant look on his face looking at the ISS coordinator, and he basically told him the case was dismissed with prejudice, meaning they could not do anything else. They could not do anything else, try to bring anything else against me and my mom. It was over. It was done. So I was very glad we got this judge. He ended what could have been a very bad, very miserable situation very quickly, and I thought as fairly as possible. And he basically told the ISS coordinator, when the ISS coordinator was walking out of the courtroom, that he should be ashamed of himself, because he acted in a manner that was not professional, not adult at all. So anyway, that basically sums up my public education experience. By this time, by the end of 8th grade, I was so far behind. I'd missed so much. Basic math skills, more advanced math skills, algebra skills, trigonometry education. I didn't get it. I did not get in the little Braille class that we had. The school was very underfunded. We basically had up to maybe third grade books, a few, and they tried to, when we were in the Braille class, tried to cycle out and use these same few books over and over and over. The entire time I was in school in this Braille class to somewhat educate us. So I was more or less learning through the 8th grade from 3rd grade education materials. So you can imagine I missed out on so much. The one thing I will say my Braille teacher taught me, and if I could be thankful for anything, he did teach me to type. I received fairly decent typing instruction from him, but that was it. Anyway, that basically sums up my educational misfortune, if you will. And yeah, so my life has been a challenge, as you can gather. And I'm going to cut this off here because this video is getting to be rather long. Hope everyone is doing well. Have a great day. Stay awesome. Peace.